Hello, in this video we will talk about how to create custom generating command in Splunk using the Python SDK. Now this particular video will be part of this list, advanced searching and reporting, the Splunk 4 playlist. Now if you are following the videos I am creating on the Python SDK, different stuff about the Python SDK, if you remember, I created a lot of videos on how to create custom commands, right? Using like how to create generating custom command or streaming custom command, both using the Splunk solution. And I think I have created one video for streaming custom command using the Python SDK as well. Now in this video, we will try to see how to create the generating custom command using the Python SDK, and apart from that we will see certain interesting stuff as well. So let me start now, as we will go step by step. So as we are using the Python SDK to build the command, so the first thing we need is the Python SDK. And if you are following these videos, then we already know Splunk Python SDK has a GitHub page. You can clone this particular repo and just take this Splunk lib directory and put it inside the bin folder of your app. Now whenever you are working with custom commands, it could happen that the app you are creating, inside the app only you will be creating custom command, or you'll be creating a very separate app at all for all the custom commands. It depends on like how you are planning to implement it. But both of these scenarios, if you just put this Splunk lib folder in the bin folder of your app, you can import it in your Python code. So today we'll be working with the TMDB app. We have it, so that's why I put it inside the bin folder, if you see it here. And let me show you the custom command, the Splunk solution. If I just go back over here, we created a generating custom command version using the Splunk solution, right? And there it works something like this one. So the command name was get joiner, and I can pass either star and or any joiner ID over here, which will give me that corresponding joiner ID name. So if I just pass star over here, so it will give me all the joiner ID and their corresponding names here from the TMDB website. And if I just put a corresponding joiner ID, let's say 18 or 99, whatever it is, so it should give me drama over here. So that's the functionality we have implemented, right? So in this video also we will try to create a similar command but using the Python SDK. Now a little bit background on the generating command and the command this get joiner we have created. So as we already know, different kinds of command we have in Splunk, right? So I already have created one video for this one. Maybe I'll give that video link over here as well. So generating command is the basically the first command in your search string, whole search string, right? Search pipeline basically. So and it has to be the first command. So that is why if you see it, we are just calling this get joiner custom command we created after this pipe itself, right? And if we just see the implementation very briefly there, so what we did, we basically developed two methods. One is the TMDB API call. It's a very generic method. It's nothing fancy. We are just using Python request module to do a get request, basically request.get, if you see it here. And in the get joiner details, what we are doing it, right, using this API key, and we are basically using this particular endpoint to get the movie list. So this endpoint I actually got from the TMDB website itself, and by passing this API key we are just calling that one and getting the output, and then we are just determining what is the input of our program. So if you see it, like we have taken this sys.argv1. That means if I just go back, the first argument we are giving it over here. So that value we are taking it as a joiner ID, and we are checking it over here. If we are giving star, then we are just working, we are basically creating a list over here. If you see it, we are just appending all the joiners over here. If we are passing a specific joiner ID over here, we are just only appending to that particular particular general ID in this list, and then we are just returning this list, and then using this enter Splunk, we are just outputting this particular results to Splunk again. So that's why this Splunk is basically displaying this data over here as a search result. So creating a, and also, so whenever you will be creating a custom command, you not only need to create that script which will be running as a part of that command, you also need to register your command as well in the commands.conf, and there you need to create this particular stanza which will be the same name as the Python file you will be creating, and inside that you need to give the file name over here. Now whenever we will be working with the Python SDK, we will see the command.conf structure as well. So everything will be similar, but the way we will be creating this script will be a little bit different there. So let's see how we can simplify our approach of creating a generating custom command using the Python SDK. So first thing is, what we will be doing it is we will be creating a Python file, as we'll be writing our code in Python itself. Now in Windows environment, it is possible that you can run a exe file as well or bat file as well as a part of your custom command, and in that case you need to basically store those scripts in a specific folder. So let me show it to you. Maybe this is the good time I can discuss that. So if you just go to this page, like Splunk developer website or portal over here, if you see in your app, if you want to run like environment or operating system specific code, you can create this kind of directories in your app, like for Linux, this one, then bin folder, then keep your either Python file or shell script or JS over here. Okay, or you can create Windows specific folder as well inside your app, then bin folder, then keep your bat or command or exe file here. Or you can just, like if you are trying to provide a very generic code which will run on both Linux and Windows, you can just directly put inside the bin folder. If you see, like your environment or OS specific code will be in this kind of file structure, but your generic code will be directly under bin folder over here. Okay, so this thing you can do as well. Now, as whatever we are going to develop today will work on Linux and Windows as well, so that's why I will be creating directly under the bin folder my script. So I'll create a new file called, let's give it a name called getjoiner version 2.py. So we will be working on this particular file today. Now, as we have created a Python file with this name, in the commands.conf we need to create a stanza with the same name. So that's how Splunk will know which script to run. So I will say getjoiner version 2. So that's my stanza name. Anyway, I have to give the file name. So now here one concept we need to remember. So there are two protocols. Basically the search command protocols Splunk supports. One is the protocol version 1 and another is the protocol version 2. Now protocol version 1 is actually for the legacy systems, like if you are using Splunk older than I think 4 in those, and the inter-Splunk solution also use the legacy system as well for the custom command. Now if you are using Splunk after 6, you should be using the protocol version 2, which we will be seeing it today. Now whenever you will be using the protocol version 2, there are certain settings you need to give in the commands.conf. One is the file name, definitely what file will be running as a part of your command. The other things we will see after we simplify our approach. Now what I say when I say simplify our approach means, if I just go to the GitHub page of the Splunk Python SDK, so there is a folder called examples. Now inside the examples folder, there are two subfolders called search commands template and the search commands app. you should be always referring these two folders whenever you will be working on any custom command using Python SDK. Now if I just go to the template, and if you see, like, it's a app basically. So inside the bin folder they have given example of lot of different kinds of command, like the generating command, reporting command, streaming command as well. So as we are discussing on the generating command, so I'll just open this one, and if you see your file structure, your code structure, the skeleton should be something like this one. Okay, now let me try to explain this one first, then we will copy paste this code. Now if you see, first it is trying to insert into sys.path the leaf folder. Now why it did that? Because if you see the Splunk documentation, they are actually keeping the Splunk leaf directory, like whatever we are putting it on inside our bin folder, this Splunk lib package, in the leaf folder. That's why they are actually appending this path. So as I said, if you are putting this Splunk leaf folder inside your bin folder, this particular line is not required. Okay, now the second stuff is very important. From this particular package, basically we are importing a lot of stuff like dispatch, the splunkleaf.search commands. So I'll just copy this one because I want to show you something. So we are importing a lot of stuff: dispatch, generating command, configuration, option, validators. Now we will try to go to documentation. I think it is always good practice to follow documentation. Now if I just search with the Splunk lib search commands, if you see, these are the different classes we have it here, right? Like the dispatch or eventing command, the generating command, if you see it, correct? So let me go back over here. I can briefly explain. So dispatch means it's basically help us, this particular class actually help us to run the command. So basically call, whenever we will be creating a generating command, we will be basically referring this particular generating command class over here. So that means we will be creating our own class. If you see, you can give any name of this class, which will be basically the subclass of this guy over here, generating command, which we are importing from here. And the class we'll be creating will have the code to do the stuff. So that means in our case, that hitting the TMDB API, get those general details, all will be inside this one. We'll see what it will be. And this class, if you see, this dispatch method is actually helping us to run that particular class as a command. Okay, so with this inputs and all, everything. Now this is the dispatch and generating command. Now there are other two things. If you see the configuration, which there is a brief things over here as well. If you see it, option and validators. Configuration means it actually help you to do lot of settings inside your code itself. Otherwise you can do it from the commands.conf as well, or you can do it from here as well. So it is a very handy stuff. And option means, let's say this one, if I just go back over here, in our get gener, the previously we created, we have an input called gener id, right? So option class is actually helping us to create that input. We will see one, we will create that gener id input as well. And validator is basically, if you want to do some kind of validation on that particular input you are receiving, then you can create, basically you can use this particular validator class as well. Now I will not copy from here. I will go to examples folder again. I will go to this search commands app. Now inside that app there is a folder called package. Inside that package I will directly go to bin folder, and there is a nice example called generate text.py. Now I will copy this one because it has a nice example as well. So if you want to try, you can try with this one as well. So this is the Python code, and which I will copy to my getgener version 2.py. This is the new Python file we have created, correct? I will save it. We will we will see how to modify these files. We will remove unnecessary codes from here and build our own code over here. Now there is another file. If I just go back over here inside the app and then package, then default folder, if you see, they have given two examples of the commands.conf. One is with the search command protocol version 1. So if I just show you, so in the version 1 you used to give this kind of settings there, which we will not be using today. We'll be always using the search command protocol version 2. And if you see, at the bare minimum, what you need is the file name, which we already given here in our commands.conf, which file, so it has to be JITKernel version 2.py, which will be running it. And there is a settings called chunked equals to true. This is also you need to give it there. So this will make sure that this particular command you will be using the search command protocol version 2. Now there is another settings here, called the Python version, which also you can mention. Now, as all of you know, Splunk is moving from Python 2.7 to Python 3. So if you are using Splunk 8, definitely you have to use Python 3. So to mention the Python version, you can write something like this one: Python dot version equals to Python 3. So this will make sure this particular command is using Python 3. And if you do not remember this settings name, do not worry. You can always see this commands.conf file documentation and work on it over here. Now let's get back here to work on our code. Now the first thing is we do not need this app. We will remove this. We'll keep this guys over here. And also we need the request module and the JSON module here. So we will both of these things from the previous code, from the initial version of, not the initial version, the inter-Splunk version of the getJener, I will just copy it here. Now as I said, you do not need this lib directory because we have copied our Splunk lib directory directly in our bin folder. I will remove this. I can directly import this one from here. Okay. Now if you are using Splunk lib 6, you can use that. Otherwise, I don't think we will be using it in our code. I do not need this one, so I'll remove this one as well. So this is our import stuff. Now let us try to see first the inside portion. So first thing is we need to give a class name. So as I said, you can give any name over here. I'll just give the same name, getJener version 2. That's my class name, which is basically the subclass inheriting from this particular class. Now as I have given the same class, I'll have to change the name over here in the dispatch method as well. So this is done, the dispatch method is done. Now the class skeleton is done as well. Now if you see it like the example they have given, they are taking two inputs, one called count and text. So for us, we need a single input. And if you see, this is how you are going to validate it as well, like whether it will be integers or not. This is how you can do it. So this is the beauty of, if you are referring that GitHub code, you will see a lot of examples which can be useful for your case. So I will just try to create a simple input called getJener. G-E-T-G-E-N-R-A, sorry, Jener ID, G-E-N-R-A-I-D. So that's my input here. And if you see the documentation for the option, so it takes a lot of arguments. One of the argument is required. So if I just go back and here and search with option, let's see if I can find it. This is the one. So if you see it takes a lot of arguments, and one of them is the require, and one of them is validate as well. So here you can give basically the validator name, which we saw very briefly for the other input there, right? So the require actually tells us like whether this particular argument will be required argument or not. So based on true and false you can give. So I have given true over here. That means I always need to pass the Jener ID to my custom command. Now this is important. So if I just go back to the documentation again and go a little bit up on the generating command and just go a little bit down here, in that particular command there is a method called generate. So this method you have to override so that you can write the logic of generating the records which will be returned by the command to Splunk processing pipeline. Now here also there are different ways you can return the data. First, initially we will try to see the default behavior, maybe then we will try to change it. Okay, so that's why if you see it here in this particular class, I am overriding this method. So this method is actually coming from this generating command method here. Okay, so now another important stuff about this generate command is it needs to be a Python generator. Okay, now if you are not sure about like what Python generator is, maybe I will share some link over here as well, so have a look. It just something like, if you know about Python list, so you can iterate through that list, right? Now Python generator is actually, it's kind of a function which you can use it as a iterator as well, and this generator yield command actually simplify that particular process. Maybe I'll share some link there, maybe you can refer it. It's very simple concept. Just you need to remember, like we need to use this particular yield command here or yield keyword over here, and inside that yield we'll basically create a Python dictionary. If you see it, something like this one, where this particular data will be given to Splunk for the output purpose. If we just talk about in a non-technical term here. So what I'll do is I will remove this 2 lines here because we do not need it. It was doing something else. So now I am just keeping this one because we'll be modifying this particular stuff here. So that's why I'm just keeping this particular code. Now if you see it, the calling to the TMDB API, that code portion will be same, right? So I will not waste time to discuss that again. So I'll just directly copy this API call method here. Now we need to remember our indentation should be fine. So I have copied the API call. It's a very generic method. I will also copy this guy over here, but we will do little bit modification, and I will just copy it here. I will fix the indentation. So we know how to call this guy. Now if you see this, it is complaining about TMDB API call. We need, as we are inside a class, it needs to be self dot save. Now if you see it, it is complaining about self as well, because whatever method you will be defining inside your class, the first argument has to be self. Here as well, self here as well. So now in this get journal list, we are passing a journal ID here, right? And checking whether if the journal ID is star, then we are basically appending all the journals to these journals, and then if we are passing a specific journal ID, then we are just appending that particular journal details into this list, and then we are returning this particular list, right? So in the generate method, now let us try to get the details. Let us try to call these guys and get the details here. So I will create a variable called gener, let's say GENRA underscore list. Now here I will be calling this get journal details method. Now inside that method I need to pass a journal ID, which will be nothing but the input in our case, which is nothing but this guy here. So I will, as this is a variable defined inside our class, so we'll be doing something like self dot journal ID here. And while calling this method also, we'll call something like self dot get journal details here. Now what I will do is I will just loop through it, this journal list, and I will yield one by one values to Splunk, so that for if I am getting more than one genre details over here, for each and every row, I'll basically for each and every genre I will be creating a separate row here. That's it. So what I'll be doing it over here, let's say for output genre is just a variable name. In this particular genre list, that's why I have kept this for loop over here. So I will be yielding this one. Now if you see it, like this is something like this will be shown up in Splunk. Now by default, this generating command is streaming in nature. That means it will create event kind of output when we will be running this particular command. So let us see that, then we will see how to make it as a table structure. Because if you see it here, the Intersplunk version we created, it is giving me a tabular structure data, right? Transformed data. But we will see it today. First, the default version of this generating command, whichever we are implementing now, it will give you the data in the event format because of this yield here. Then we will try to make it as a tabular format over here. Because of not for this yield, there is a default type of this command called streaming. That's why, which we can override here using this configuration, which we'll be discussing very shortly. So first let us see it. Now to see it as an event, we need at least the underscore time and raw value, and also we will try to create those two values. Like if I just go back here, at least we want to create these two fields, ID and name. So that means we will be creating 4 fields over here: underscore time, raw, then ID and name here. And if you see it over here, the underscore time, they are taking the current time using this time module, so which is perfectly fine. We'll keep it as is. Now serial number we do not need. I will just remove this. We will create another field called ID here. The value of this particular field will see, if you see this general list and each and every row, what data we are pulling it here, we are pulling it two things, the ID and the name. So if you run this one, if you go to TMDB website and run this particular endpoint there, you will see for each and every general list that ID and name will be there with some other details as well, but we are mostly interested in this ID and name. So in this general list also we will be having that both of that particular values over here. So the ID will be this output genre, and there will be a field called, or basically the key called ID here, and we will be creating similarly another key called name, which will basically be extracted as a field in our case in Splunk, which we'll see it very soon. And we will take similar stuff, name. So this is nothing but this data is coming from the TMDB website data itself, the endpoint itself. Now inside the raw, you can see the data in any way, because anyway I am creating these two fields here. So inside the raw, I'll just take this ID comma name, that particular value, so that it will show something in Splunk. So I will say, I will just remove this. I will say str of this ID, str of this ID, plus I will give it a comma, then str of this name as well. At least we can see it's something, some event like stuff there, because if you are not creating this underscore raw, it will be showing blank in the event, but it will be creating these two fields, but in the event portion it will be showing blank there. So this should be enough to test the code here. I will save it. So as we did some changes from the backend to this conf file, I will try to restart Splunk once, then we will try to come back and test this particular code. So what I'll do is, from here I will just restart my Splunk. We'll come back after Splunk restart completed. Okay, Splunk has been restarted now. So let us log in and try to see if our command works or not. We will try to fix if there is any issue. We'll go to this TMDB app. Now this time our command will be, so as we saw from the commands.conf, this is our command name, right? Get gener version 2. So that will be giving it, and we have a input called gener id. And now you see, this is an interesting stuff. Whenever we implemented the Splunk version of the get gener, we are directly providing the value over there, right? Even you can give something like the gener id equals to 18, but you need to handle that in your code in that way, so that you can parse that input. Now whenever in the search command protocol version 2 you are and using the Splunk Python SDK, you are creating this particular input using this option class, it is automatically handled. That means you can pass the input something like gener id. Here gener id equals to star. Let's say we are expecting either star or 18. So let's say if this works or not. And if you see, it is giving me 19 rows, but in the event structure, if you see it. And if you, this is what I was saying when I was talking about the raw, right? If you are just do not create this raw one, so this will not show up over here, but the event will be definitely there, and it will be extracting this id field and the name field as well, right? So if I just do table id name, so we will be getting that in a tabular structure over here, just like the Splunk solution output, right? So if I just give a star here, it will be similar output. It will be similar output here, right? So our initial code works. Now there are a couple of things. Let us try to do more. Now for that, let me show you something. Now if you see it here, any command you run in Splunk, let's say input lookup, if you see, like, it automatically comes up in this drop down with a nice color here with the whatever input. Let's say there is an input called append, and if you see, whenever you start writing ap, it is showing up over here with this nice green color here. So let us try to see whether we can achieve this for our custom command here. It is all coming in as a black color, which we may not like it here, right? So for that, what you need to do is we will go back to our code base. Now inside the default folder, we'll be creating a new file called searchbnf.conf. Now again, let us go back to the documentation. It's a very interesting file now, and very short documentation as well. I think you should read it. So this one is actually telling us how to format your the UI portion of your search. Now there are basically the search command. Now there are a lot of things over here. One thing you need to remember over here is the stanza name. Now the stanza name will be your actual command name, then dash this command keyword. So let us copy this one here. So I will go back to our code base and paste it here. Our command name is get gener version 2, which is nothing but this guy. So I will paste it here. Okay. Now there are a lot of settings here. The most important settings you can give it here is the syntax. You basically tell Splunk. So this will be your command syntax. You can give a short description or full description as well according to this inputs here, and you can give the usage over here as well. So I already created that one. Maybe I'll just copy it. It's a very simple stuff. So if I just go back here, paste it here. So what I did is in the syntax, I'm just telling this is how it will, you should be calling my custom command. You need to give the get gener the command name, then either gener id equals to star or gener id equals to any integer value. And I just give a short description here, like it will return the gener name and id, and just usage equals to public here. So this should be enough for that particular command to be highlighted by Splunk. So let us try to see it. We need to again restart Splunk. So I'll do that one. I'll do it from here. Setting, server control, restart Splunk. Okay. Our Splunk has been restarted. So let us log in back again. So I'll go over here. I'll go to TMDB app. Now one interesting thing should happen if we did it correctly. So if I just want to try to type get gener, if you see it, it is already coming it as a blue color. Now I have an input called gener id, and if you see it, it is coming it as a green color over here. I can give any name id over here, let's say 18, and run this one. So this now looks like the other Splunk command we ran, right? So we are used to working with. So this will basically give you a very good look and feel of the command you will be creating as well. Now one thing we are still seeing over here is it is not giving me in the tabular structure because the pipeline. Now if you just follow along the generating custom command documentation, this is a very good documentation, you should be reading it. Now there are 3 pipelines actually for this particular command called streams, events, and reports. Now by default is the streams, that means it will create the event kinds of structure, both of these streams and events. Only difference is that in the stream mode you can run this command both in searched as well as indexer. So there is a input called distributed, which by default is false. You can make it as true as well, so that it will be using the searched as well as indexer to run this command. And in the event, it's only run the command on the searched. Now there is another pipeline called reports, which basically transform this particular output to a tabular structure there. So to achieve that, what you can do is either you can use this type equals to streaming, event, and or reporting in your commands.conf, but we know we already had a, if I just go back over here, we already imported this configuration which is showing up over here. And as I told at the initial part of the video, it basically helps you to bypass the commands.conf, so you can put those settings here. So if I just give this settings over here, type equals to reporting, it needs to be in proper format. This is the problem when you copy from the documentation, so you need to remember this. So now this guy should be allowing me to generate the output in a tabular format, so that I do not need to use basically this table id name to do that. Now if I just run this command again, so if we have done correctly, it should give me the data in the tabular format. If you see it over here, it should give me all the details over here. You can always take those fields which you need, but at least it is transforming this data and showing the output over here. So this is the way you will be creating any kind of custom command, which today we saw how to create generating custom command in Splunk, and whatever file we created using this search bnf.conf can be applicable to any kind of command you will be using it, be it streaming command or eventing command or reporting command. Okay, so I don't know like whether you will be seeing this video till this point or not, but if you reach this point, congratulations. So you created a custom generating command on your own. Now if you see, the possibility is endless here, right? Because inside the code, what I have done is I just called an API. Now here it's you are in the Python layer here, right? That means you can do n number of stuff over here, but only thing is that you need to be very much sure what you are doing it over here, because this is something like a generating custom command, right? So it's a custom command. Basically people will be using it as a simple Splunk command as well, right? So whatever the logic or whatever the functionality we are giving it over there, you need to be 100% sure like it is not prone to any kind of hacking or any kind of injection stuff there, right? So let's not prolong it further. So hopefully this video was helpful. See you in the next video.